Hi, we're at Flame 2014 here with Jim O'Neill. And, Jim, given how you've been speaking about sort of a new set of emerging economies lately, I'd like to get an idea of where you see their energy needs affecting their development over the next 5 to 10 years or so.
So I assume from that you're talking about the so-called mint countries.
Exactly.
So Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria, Turkey. I think for at least 3 of the 4 of them, energy policy is at the core of the reforms that the governments are trying to do. So let me talk about each of them briefly.
Sure.
So in Mexico, part of their problems the past 20 years, if not longer, is the state energy company, Pemex, has been so inefficient. So right at the core of their reforms is trying to turn this big beast into a much more efficient producer so they can produce more and it costs less, and with it to dramatically lower the cost of energy production.
Sure.
So people in the oil business are being invited in to help improve Mexican oil production for the first time ever. So it's probably the most exciting thing for the oil companies in the world going on today, I would guess. Not being an oil specialist, I don't know, but I would guess that would be the case. So that's really big for Mexico. In Indonesia, where there's an election coming up later this year, one of the major controversies is about the subsidy, that's domestic price.
Exactly.
And it's probably the case whoever wins, they're going to have to take off that subsidy. And the current lead guy in the polls, a guy who's kind of affectionately known as Jokowi, is the governor of Jakarta itself. He's not part of the sort of oligopoly type crowd that have run the place in the past. And so many people are quite excited that if this guy wins, but they don't know what he's going to do about the energy subsidy. But that will obviously be a huge issue in Indonesian economics and politics.
Well, I have to ask, Jim, though, they've tried to reduce those subsidies in the past. It hasn't been very popular. How do you see that turning out this time around, even though, going through a fresh bunch of polls?
This is why I say it's such an interesting issue, because this is a guy that's seen as being Mr. Populist and a guy of the common man. And of course, the common man probably doesn't even realise how much energy is subsidised.
Yeah, exactly.
But Jokowi knows and talks about getting it down significantly. So in advance of the election, business people like him as well, because he's saying he's going to pull it down.
Yeah.
But talking the talk and walking the walk, as we know, is a kind of different thing. So we'll have to see. I don't know. I mean, I've met the guy, and my hunch is that he'll probably try and be tougher than people realise, so it'll probably be cut, but it's easy to say in advance.
It wasn't hard to swallow the last couple of times they tried it. So
yeah.
We'll see.
And then finish off line. So in Nigeria, where, by the length of time you and I have been talking, by now in Nigeria there would have been 2 power cuts. That's how bad the energy situation is there. But they're trying to put through their own pretty radical reforms to boost production. But the governance in Nigeria is so bad. Whether they can do it, and whether in the process it's not all squandered in some kind of dodgy dealings, it's hard to know. But there's huge focus on this there as well.
The interesting thing is that despite some of the political risks, you do, at least in sectors like, say, LNG export, they still have proven to be a very reliable counterparty to a lot of the buyers in the world, essentially. Do you think that might sort of offset any risks that people might see politically? Because if the production continues, despite all of the unrest and the uncertainty, then there might not be a problem.
Well, I'm actually quite optimistic about many aspects of reform in Nigeria, including this one, because I think one of the things that's going on is that newer and smaller domestic Nigerian producers of energy are appearing all the time.
Sure.
And they don't have the same part of the dilemma that some of the big multinationals have got is this whole sort of colonialism thing. And my impression, and having met with many of them for a big radio documentary series I did, is I think the rise of the domestic energy producers will continue and make it probably more efficient and perhaps with it more reliable. So I would be, contrary to the generalised view that everything in Nigeria is a disaster, on this particular topic I'd be reasonably optimistic.
Sort of SME fragmentation lending some kind of balance?
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
All right. One last thing, though, about Turkey. I just wonder what your view was on that particular market.
Well, of course, compared to the others, they're a big energy importer.
Yeah.
And at the moment, it's not as dominant a focus of policy as it is elsewhere. Turkey's got plenty of other, plenty of big dilemmas going on, including how they deal with this sort of apparent craving of power at any cost coming from the current leadership.
Yeah.
But the energy thing is not a prominent issue in Turkey as it is elsewhere.
Understood. Right. Well, thanks for your time, Jim.
My pleasure. It's been a great privilege to be here. Thanks.